Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu and with me is Abhineet Shukla bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India commits to reduce emissions intensity of economy by 45% by 2030. China summons U.S. ambassador over Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrives in Cambodia for the India-ASEAN ministerial meeting. United States issue worldwide travel advisory for citizens following al-Zawahiri's death. ASI announces free entry for all visitors to protected monuments from 5th to 15th of August. India passes National Anti-Doping Bill 2021 to prohibit athletes from doping. And at the Commonwealth Games, Lovepreet Singh wins bronze medal in men's weightlifting event. And now the news in detail. The Union Cabinet has approved India's updated Nationally Determined Contribution or NDC to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change UNFCCC. The updated NDC seeks to enhance India's contribution towards tackling the challenges of climate change. It will help India usher in low-emission growth pathways and safeguard its future development needs. India now stands committed to reducing the emissions intensity of its GDP by 45% by 2030 from the 2005 level. It aims to achieve about 50% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel-based energy resources by 2030. The move is in sync with the vision of sustainable lifestyles, climate justice to protect the poor and vulnerable from adverse impacts of climate change. At the 26th conference of the party's COP26 held in Glasgow, Prime Minister Narendra Modi proposed a one-word movement to the global community. The word life or lifestyle for environment envisages a lifestyle that is in tune with the planet and does not harm it. India's updated NDC captures this citizen-centric approach to combat climate change. China has summoned the U.S. ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, to lodge a stern protest over Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taipei. Beijing warned Washington and cautioned it to stop using the Taiwan issue to contain China in any form. Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Xi Feng urgently summoned Ambassador Burns late Tuesday night and launched stern representations and strong protests over Pelosi's visit, the highest by a top U.S. leader to Taipei in 25 years. State media reported Chinese People's Liberation Army continued joint military exercises around the island of Taiwan on Wednesday. Beijing has not ruled out the possible use of force to reunify the self-ruled island with the mainland. Earlier in the day, Ms. Pelosi addressed Taiwan's parliament and met Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen. Speaking on the occasion, she said the entire U.S. is united in support of Taiwan. She said the U.S. will not backtrack from its commitment to stand with Taiwan. At a joint news conference in Taipei, Ms. Pelosi played down the controversy around her visit to China, saying Beijing had not responded similarly when other U.S. legislators visited earlier this year. In April, 6 top U.S. lawmakers made a surprise visit to Taiwan. The cross-party delegation included Democratic Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Menendez and Republican Senator Lindsey Graham.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrived in Cambodia for the India-ASEAN ministerial meeting on Wednesday. He visited Siem Reap, where experts of the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, are engaged in conservation work. Dr. Jaishankar said the Ministry of External Affairs is proud to support these efforts. He visited the 12th century Ta Prohm temple, currently undergoing conservation. Dr. Jaishankar met High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of European Commission, Josep Borrell Fontelles, at the Ta Prohm temple conservation site. Mr. Fontelles appreciated the work being done there by India. A report.
2022 marks 30 years of India-ASEAN relations and is the India-ASEAN Year of Friendship. India began formal engagement with ASEAN in 1992. The partnership was further elevated to a strategic partnership in 2012. The relations are based on millennia-old civilizational and cultural linkages between Southeast Asia and India. Cooperation in renewable energy and low-carbon regional economy received a thrust through the ASEAN-India Green Fund. The 12th edition of the annual Delhi Dialogue held in June this year in New Delhi reaffirmed a commitment to further deepen the broad-based partnership to promote peace, stability and prosperity in the region. Abhishek Mukhopadhyay for World News, All India Radio.
Meanwhile, the Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, has announced that no charge shall be levied on visitors, both domestic and foreign, at all ticketed centrally protected monuments, museums and archaeological sites and remains from the 5th to the 15th of August 2022. The announcement is a part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations of 75 years of India's independence. ASI administers and manages 3,687 ancient monuments and archaeological sites and remains of national importance through its 29 circles and 3 mini-circles. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will take part in the regular meetings of foreign ministries heads in the formats of the ASEAN East Asia Summit and the ASEAN Regional Forum ARF on the 4th and 5th of August in Phnom Penh. According to a statement from Russia's Foreign Ministry, Mr. Lavrov was also scheduled to visit Myanmar. The statement also listed that Mr. Lavrov would hold talks with the Foreign Minister of Myanmar, Wonamaung Lwin, and meet with the Myanmar leadership.
India and Japan held the third joint working group meeting on specified skilled workers or SSW in hybrid format on Tuesday in New Delhi. India and Japan signed a memorandum of cooperation on SSW in January 2021 in order to promote the movement of skilled workers meeting the skill and Japanese language requirements from India to Japan for employment on a contractual basis. At the meeting, both sides agreed that there was considerable potential to boost the number of SSW workers from India to Japan. Key issues discussed during the meeting included demand-supply matching, including the use of digital technology and platforms, raising the number of test centers in India, expanding the sectors of implementation, raising of awareness about the program in India, Japanese language promotion in India, and setting up of a framework for program monitoring. President of the Maldives Ibrahim Mohammed Solih arrived in Mumbai on Wednesday on a 2-day visit. On his arrival in Mumbai from Delhi, he called on Maharashtra Governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari at Raj Bhavan. Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis was present on the occasion. A special lunch was organized to welcome Mr. Solih at the Raj Bhavan. Visits to the Bombay Stock Exchange and the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust in Navi Mumbai are also on the agenda before his return to the Maldives on Thursday.
The first grain ship from Ukraine since the conflict has arrived at Turkey's Bosphorus Strait. In media reports said that the Razoni, which is carrying 26,000 tons of corn, was inspected this morning before continuing its journey to Lebanon. Ukraine in a statement said its naval vessels will guide cargo ships through waters which have been mined. The Razoni left the Ukrainian port of Odessa on Monday, bound for Tripoli in Lebanon via Turkish waters. Ukrainian authorities said that there are 17 other grain ships waiting to leave the country's Black Sea ports once the Razoni completes its voyage safely. UN Chief Antonio Guterres welcomed the departure of the first ship from the Ukrainian port of Odessa carrying grain under the landmark deal signed by Ukraine, Russia and Turkey overseen by the UN. In a statement issued by his spokesperson, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that ensuring existing grain and foodstuffs can move to global markets is a humanitarian imperative. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in a statement said that he wanted to see grain exports become regular again. In Yemen, a landmark agreement which had stalled since April has been renewed for an additional 2 months till the 2nd of October. UN Special Envoy for Yemen Hans Granberg made the announcement on Tuesday. The extension includes a commitment by the government and Houthi rebels to intensify negotiations to reach an expanded agreement as soon as possible. The UN-brokered truce first came into effect on the 2nd of April and for an initial 2 months. It was renewed for another 2 months in June, marking the longest period of relative calm in Yemen in more than 7 years of conflict. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on India-Maldives ties looking up. In conversation are Anil Kumar Trigunyat, former ambassador, and Manas Pratim Bhuyan, journalist.
Ambassador Trigana, Maldivian President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih is currently in India on a 4-day visit. Yesterday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Solih held extensive talks covering all aspects of strategic cooperation between India and the Maldives. Let us first discuss the defense and security component of the talk. After the discussions, Prime Minister Modi announced a raft of assistance to bolster capability of the Maldivian Defense Forces. The announcements included a decision to supply a naval vessel. India also announced its decision to supply another ship as a replacement for a vessel that was provided earlier to the Maldives. The Prime Minister also announced India's decision to supply 24 utility vehicles for the Maldivian Defense Forces and a decision to assist Maldives in building police infrastructure islands in that country. So how do you see the overall defense and security aspects of the talks? Because Prime Minister Modi in his media statement also said that close defense and security coordination between India and the Maldives is vital for peace and stability in the entire region.
Yes, Manas, you are absolutely right. The defense and security cooperation, whether it is in cyber security or physical security, are extremely important components of our bilateral discussions and bilateral talks and the relationship, especially ever since President Ibrahim Solih has come to power. As you know, that India follows its relationship within the ambit of neighborhood first policy. Then Ibrahim Solih also started his India first policy. And it is in that context that we are seeing an all-round holistic approach to enriching our bilateral ties, including in the defense and security sector. An agreement was also signed to cooperate in the cyber security, as you know, which is also equally important, and so is the terrorism. They are also all part of the security domain. And there is a joint working group which works together in this. I think that one of the most important things in this, apart from providing a naval boat or for that matter an aircraft like LCA and all, the important thing is that to beef up their domestic security infrastructure, providing the help to the 61 police stations and others. That's an extremely important dimension as far as security is concerned. And as you know, Maldives is a highly strategic country for us, and there is a certain kind of a competition with our northern neighbor in Maldives and elsewhere in our neighborhood. And so Maldives fits extremely well in India's Sagar project. So all these things which you are looking at, which have been agreements that have been signed, are very much within the ambit of our overall cooperation with the country in strengthening that country's security. And Prime Minister Modi, one thing he said, and as has been the case in our relationship with Maldives, he said that India will always remain a first responder in any situation that Maldives faces.
Ambassador Trigana, the joint statement issued after talks between Prime Minister Modi and President Solih, it talked about both the leaders agreeing on energizing cooperation in the maritime security zone. That's a very important statement considering the fact that a number of countries in the Indian Ocean region are actually increasingly concerned about China's growing forays into the Indian Ocean region. Though it is not very explicitly said in the joint statement, how do you see it? Both the sides also talked about recognizing that the security of India and Maldives are interlinked and that the two leaders reiterated their assurance to be mindful of each other's concerns on the security and stability of the region and not to allow their respective territories to be used for any activity inimical to the other. So how do you see this strong formulation in the joint statement?
I think that this is what precisely that you are saying is very much there. In addition, you know, India has been helping Maldives a great deal in its capacity building, not only providing security or assistance during the times of crisis, which we have done every time India has been the first responder. So we must look at it from that point of view and from Maldivian point of view. So the Maldivian president was extremely categorical about India's overall assistance across the spectrum, not only in the defense and security area. Of course, maritime security is extremely important in the Indian Ocean region. As you know, and Maldives is a very strong player in that. But at the same time, India has also been working with Maldives in the maritime zone. As far as the fishing forecasting capacity is concerned, in that sense, We have signed an MOU on collaboration and capacity building for that between the two ministries of fisheries and theirs. So, plus allowing them the possibility of duty-free exports of tuna. That also is a maritime. When we look at the maritime dimension, it is not only pure defense, but it is also exploitation of the resources, or rather legitimate exploitation of resources. That is something that India has been working. Similarly, that disaster management, we have signed another agreement this time to collaborate with them. So all these are part of our overall security architecture, for which India is providing the funding as well as expertise as well as the capacity building to our Maldivian friends.
Ambassador Trigane, Prime Minister Modi, after his talks with President Soli at the joint media interaction, also announced a $100 million additional lines of credit for Maldives. Besides that, in fact, the overall development initiatives unveiled by India included an extension of $128 million for the Honeymeadow Airport project, a green signal for commencement of tendering process of the $324 million Guhifalu Port project. India also announced approval to carry out the feasibility report and financial closure for a $30 million cancer hospital project. Another project worth $119 million to be provided by the Exim Bank of India for construction of 2,000 additional social housing units. These are in fact raft of projects that India announced yesterday. So what does it signal actually at a time there has been strategic competition in the region and India is offering such kind of initiatives for Maldives, which is also reeling under the adverse impact of the coronavirus pandemic? How do you see it? Because President Soli very clearly said that India will be our foremost friends and further enhancing bilateral relations with India is my topmost priority. How do you see the overall tone and tenure and atmosphere of the talk?
Manas, as you have mentioned and listed out all those projects, so I won't repeat them, but that clearly shows that India is interested in developing the social infrastructure within the country and try to help it become as far independent as possible. One of the things that you did not mention was India's commitment to help Maldives fight the climate change and be carbon neutral by 2030. You can imagine. And in that, Prime Minister Modi has also extended very clearly all the assistance so that Maldives, which is suffering, and as you know, because of the adverse climate change, and you know that time the previous president had, in order to flag it, even hosted his cabinet meetings under siege. So Maldives is under the threat of being submerged due to the climate change. So that is an extremely important. Of course, one of the biggest projects for which we saw the concrete putting the thing is the Great Malay project, which is a very big construction and infrastructure project. So it will start work then, as you mentioned, the port and the airport, and all those projects amount to the fact that India is working for internal connectivity of Maldives as well as connectivity between India and Maldives. As you know, the cargo ship and all those have been started between the two countries. So I see that this is a very expensive proposition, not in terms of money, but in terms of the scope.
Ambassador Trigane, we have seen a massive upswing in India-Maldives ties in the last 3 years, particularly after Soli became the Prime Minister. So in March, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar visited Maldives, during which he handed over a coastal radar system, which is also considered very, very important. The Maldivian Defense Forces Chief Major General Abdullah Samal visited India last week, just ahead of President Soli's visit. Again, in fact, our Navy Chief recently visited Maldives. And definitely, you mentioned about the Greater Malay Connectivity Project, which is a massive infrastructure project under which a 6.74 kilometer long bridge and another link will be built to connect capital city Malé with adjoining islands, and it is being touted as the biggest infrastructure. How do you see the relationship going forward from here on?
See that this is a very strong relationship which India has very heavily invested. However, one has to be very cautious because see, when you invest in a relationship, the other side, so that's precisely I feel that since India is investing a great deal at the grassroots level, within the social infrastructure, within their own capacity building, so that is why the relationship has a much brighter future. But of course, nobody can say if there another political party comes and has a different opinion, the things can be put on a different pedestal. At the moment, I think that the relationship is continuing and will continue to remain stronger and grow because Prime Minister Modi and the President Soli both are committed to taking the relationship forward.
Thank you, Mr. Treganat, for your overall perspective on India's relationship with Maldives.
Thank you.
The United States has issued a travel advisory to its citizens cautioning them regarding the higher potential for anti-American violence after the death of Ayman al-Zawahiri. The U.S. government in the advisory issued on Tuesday said that supporters of Al-Qaeda or its affiliated terrorist organizations may seek to attack U.S. facilities, personnel or citizens. It added that as terrorist attacks often occur without warning, U.S. citizens are strongly encouraged to maintain a high level of vigilance and practice good situational awareness when traveling abroad. Top Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri was killed in a U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan over the weekend. The drone attack is the first known U.S. strike inside Afghanistan since U.S. troops and diplomats left the country in August 2021. In a statement, Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid confirmed that a strike took place and strongly condemned it, calling it a violation of international principles. Parliament of India has passed the National Anti-Doping Bill 2022 with Rajya Sabha approving it on Wednesday. Lok Sabha had passed it on last Wednesday. The bill seeks to provide a statutory framework for the functioning of the National Anti-Doping Agency NADA and the National Dope Testing Laboratory NDTL in sports. Its functions include planning, implementing and monitoring anti-doping activities as well as investigating anti-doping rule violations. Moving the bill, Youth Affairs and Sports Minister Anurag Thakur said the bill is intended to protect the interests of sportspersons and provide benefit to the athletes by creating awareness among them about doping. He said if an athlete is found to be involved in doping, then the possibility of winning medals in tournament gets hampered.
On day 6 of the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, Lovepreet Singh bagged the bronze medal in men's 109 kg weightlifting while setting a national record in the clean and jerk round. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Lovepreet and said that he has impressed everyone with his calm temperament and dedication to sports. Meanwhile, the Indian women beat Canada 3-2 to qualify for the hockey semi-final. The Indian men's hockey team thrashed Canada 8-0 in a Pool B match. Tulika Mann reached the final of the judo women's plus 78 kg category after defeating Sydney Andrews of New Zealand in the semi-final. In boxing, Neetu Singh enters the semi-finals by defeating Nicole Clyde in the quarter-final of women's 45 kg to 48 kg. Boxer Husamuddin Mohammed entered in semi-final of the featherweight category by defeating Taigen Morning of Namibia. He is now assured of a bronze medal at least. Tulika Mann won her women's plus 78 kg quarter-final match against Tessie Durhon of Mauritius in judo and reached in the semi-final in the women's 78 kg, while Deepak Deswal lost his men's 100 kg quarter-final match against England's Harry Hewitt. In round 2 of the lawn bowls, the Indian women's pair of Lovely Chaube and Nayonmani Saikia won their match 23-6, while Midul Borgohan registered a superb 21-5-1 in his men's single match. In squash, Sunaina Sara Kuruvilla won the singles plate final against Guyana's Mary Fungaford Guy. She won by a margin of 3-0 in the medals tally. India is placed at the 6th spot with a total of 14 medals comprising 5 golds, 5 silvers and 4 bronzes. And now let's listen to our special segment, Popuri.
If we go by the definition, bad luck means an unfortunate state resulting from unfavorable outcomes. A British man accidentally threw out a hard drive with a Trough of Bitcoin on it. Yes, by mistake, but he is now on the hunt for the same. He discarded the device while clearing out his home in 2013. He had 7,500 Bitcoins, which at today's prices would be worth more than $280 million. He says the only way to regain access to it would be through the hard drive he threw in the trash 8 years ago. But he needs permission from his local council to search a garbage dump he believes contains the lost hardware. He has offered to donate 25% of the haul, worth around $70.8 million, to a COVID relief fund for his home city if he manages to dig up the hard drive. But the Newport City Council has so far rejected his request to look through the landfill, citing environmental and funding concerns. And it doesn't seem like local officials are about to budge anytime soon. If it isn't bad luck, then what is? Organizers of a festival in England broke a Guinness World Record by gathering nearly 600 people to dance simultaneously to disco music. A Guinness adjudicator was on hand to verify the dance broke the previous record of 324 dances, which was set in London in 2018. 598 people clad in matching sequined capes danced to Sister.
And now a report from the business world.
Sensex rose 214 points to finish at 58,351. Nifty added 43 points to end at 17,388. At the global stock markets, global stock indices today traded mixed as markets weighed risks from U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and comments from the Federal Reserve officials talking up the chance of aggressive interest rate hikes. Asian share markets logged modest gains except China's Shanghai Composite Index, which declined 0.7%. South Korea's Kospi surged 0.9% and Japan's Nikkei 225 climbed 0.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng and Singapore Straits Times both were up 0.4% each. European share markets are mixed in intraday trade. Oil prices today inched up, erasing earlier losses as the OPEC Plus producer group was set for a small output increase of 100,000 barrels per day, dashing U.S. hopes of a meaningful supply boost. Crude prices gained more than 1.5%. Brent crude was trading near $102 per barrel. Back home, gold was trading at 51,450 rupees per 10 grams at the multi-commodity exchange for August contracts. Silver was trading at 57,590 rupees per kilogram for September contracts when reports last came in. And in the foreign exchange market, the rupee depreciated by 45 paise against the US dollar. The domestic currency closed at 79 rupees and 16 paise against the American unit. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian reports that scientists create the world's first synthetic embryos. New York Times writes that abortion rights activists win surprising victory in conservative Kansas. Sydney Morning Herald reports that Brexit spurs record investment boom for Australian firms in the UK. Bloomberg writes China's COVID-0 could last for years because it works for President Xi. CNBC writes the loss of confidence in China's property sector could feed into a contagion that would further drag down the Chinese economy, analysts warned. Khabar Hub reports that Nepal has experienced many incidences of landslides and floods in different parts of the country. My Republica writes that although the government has banned the use of thin plastic bags, its implementation is weak. Pakistan Today reports that Federal Law Minister Azam Nazir Tarar and Federal Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah on Tuesday said that the government will decide to ban Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and its chairman Imran Khan. The News International reports that PMLN's President Nawaz Sharif on Tuesday said that Imran Khan demanded the Chief Election Commissioner Sikandar Sultan Raja's resignation because he was involved in money laundering. Police detained 7 Rohingyas who fled from Bhasan Char early on Wednesday at Char Jabbar police station in Noakhali, reports Daily Star. And now a quick look at the headlines once again. India commits to reduce emissions intensity of economy by 45% by 2030. China summons U.S. ambassador over Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrives in Cambodia for the India-ASEAN ministerial meeting. United States issue worldwide travel advisory for citizens following al-Zawahiri's death. ASI announces free entry for all visitors to protected monuments from 5th to 15th of August. India passes National Anti-Doping Bill 2021 to prohibit athletes from doping. And at the Commonwealth Games, Lovepreet Singh wins bronze medal in men's weightlifting event.
And now before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan Vaishno Jan by artists from Nepal.
And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.